Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are tackling something that honestly brings a whole lot of stress, confusion, and, let's be real, pure exhaustion to new parents. We're going to dive deep into the biology behind newborn sleep patterns and give you some practical, expert-backed tools for successful feeding times. If you've ever just stared at your sleeping baby and thought, wait, am I doing the right thing by letting them snooze? Well, you are in exactly the right place.
Let's kick things off by validating a massive concern for new parents. Pediatricians hear this constantly from worried moms and dads. Why on earth is my baby sleeping so much? Well, the reality is kind of astounding. It is perfectly, completely normal for a newborn to sleep 18 to 20 hours a day. Yeah, 18 to 20 hours. That's literally almost the entire day. But to understand exactly why that is, let's take a quick look at our roadmap.
We've broken this explainer down into 5 simple sections. First, the newborn sleep mystery. Second, the 3-hour feeding rule. Third, steps to wake your baby. Fourth, why wakefulness matters. And fifth, when to call the doctor.
All right, diving right into Section 1, the newborn sleep mystery, and why babies sleep so much.
So it can feel super alarming when your little one just sleeps right through all the daytime noise, right? But think about their environment before they were born. In the womb, they were essentially resting or sleeping 24 hours a day. When they finally make their big arrival, they don't just instantly snap into an adult schedule. It's a natural transition. For those first 3 to 4 months, that 24-hour womb cycle just kind of scales back slightly to an 18 to 20-hour cycle. They're just easing into the world.
But, it's actually not just about transitioning. There is some serious heavy lifting going on behind the scenes. This endless snoozing is absolutely not a sign of laziness, it is a biological necessity. It's literally crucial for proper brain development. While they might look totally peaceful on the outside, their little brains are working in absolute overdrive, building connections and developing at lightning speed.
Okay, moving right along to Section 2. The 3-hour feeding rule, and the myth of never wake a sleeping baby.
So we really need to shatter a super common, age-old parenting myth right now. I know it is incredibly tempting to follow that old saying, sleep when the baby sleeps, meaning, mom and dad finally get to close their eyes for a decent stretch. But here's the reality check. You cannot simply leave a newborn to sleep indefinitely. You actively need to feed a newborn every 2 to 3 hours. It's an absolute requirement, even if it feels like you're constantly ruining their nap.
And here's exactly why that 2 to 3 hour window is absolutely vital. Sometimes, a baby might naturally want to sleep for 6, 8, or even 10 hours straight. And as a parent, you're probably thinking, awesome, they're resting, I definitely shouldn't disturb them. But actually, scratch that. If you let a newborn sleep for those long, unbroken stretches without a feed, you're introducing some serious medical risks. Their blood sugar can drop dangerously low. And when blood sugar drops, the glucose levels in that rapidly developing brain decrease too. Remember how we just talked about sleep being for brain development? Well, the brain needs fuel to do that, and that fuel is glucose from milk. So yes, you absolutely have to wake them up to eat.
Which brings us to Section 3, Steps to Wake Your Baby, a step-by-step toolkit.
Because let's face it, newborns can be incredibly deep sleepers. Parents tell us all the time they get exhausted just trying to wake the baby up. So here is your hierarchy of stimulation. Step 1. Start by changing their diaper. The handling, the cooler air, the physical touch, it acts as a really strong stimulus. Often that does the trick. But if it doesn't, move to Step 2. Skin-to-skin contact. Placing the baby directly against mom's bare chest provides warmth and connection that can gently rouse them. Still nothing? Okay, Step 3. Gently stroke or pat the area near their ear and forehead. It's just a slightly more irritating sensation to bring them to alertness. And finally, if you've got a seriously deep sleeper on your hands, Step 4. Remove their socks or mittens and gently but firmly flick the bare soles of their feet with your finger. This is basically the ultimate trick of the trade.
So why are we going to such lengths? That brings us to Section 4, why wakefulness matters, and the importance of the pre-feed cry.
This part is actually pretty fascinating, and it might even shock you a bit. We are so conditioned to do whatever it takes to stop a baby from crying, right? But here's the thing. A baby's slight crying is actually necessary before sucking. I know, it sounds totally counterintuitive to anxious parents who just want a nice, peaceful feeding session. But eliciting a little cry from your baby, maybe by using that foot flicking trick we just talked about, is a vital biological signal. It's the sign that they are genuinely alert, awake, and energetically ready to actually feed.
Because let's look at what happens if you skip that waking process. It creates this whole negative cascade. If a sleepy, unawakened baby is placed on the chest for a feed, they just aren't going to have the energy or the alertness to latch properly or suck effectively. And because they aren't drinking enough milk, they end up leaving the feeling totally unfulfilled and honestly still hungry. The result? A baby who continuously cries out of sheer frustration a little while later. Basically, by avoiding a tiny, little waking cry before the feed, you're pretty much guaranteeing prolonged, frustrated crying after the feed. Nobody wants that.
And finally, we reach section 5, when to call the doctor and the warning signs to watch for.
While sleeping 18 to 20 hours is totally normal, you know your baby best. You need to pay close attention to a couple of warning signs. First, if your baby is acting unusually and excessively sleepy compared to their normal baseline, take note of that. But more importantly, if they remain entirely unresponsive and just will not wake up, even after you've escalated all the way to that foot flicking technique, stop. Do not wait. This is the exact moment you need to call a doctor to get a professional opinion and rule out any underlying issues.
Look, raising a newborn is an incredibly demanding phase of life. As you navigate this whole new adventure, try to remember this core message. Be calm, be patient, and learn these little tricks of the trade. Don't panic if they sleep a ton, but definitely stay diligent. Actively use the diaper changes, the skin-to-skin time, and those foot flicks to make sure your baby gets the nutrition they need to thrive. Just because they're snoozing doesn't mean you get to clock out of feeding duty.
Armed with the knowledge of exactly why they sleep so much, very real dangers of letting them sleep through those feeds, and the precise physical toolkit you need to wake them up, you are fully prepared for whatever your newborn schedule throws at you next. So I'll leave you with this thought. Now that you know a little pre-feed cry is actually your best friend, are you ready for the next feed? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.